Welcome to I Am My Sister workshop. In this episode, I really want to concentrate on explaining exactly what I mean by I Am My Sister workshop. And this is the reason for this is because I have had so many people asking, what does it mean? I Am My Sister workshop. What does it mean? What does it really stand for? And the honest truth is that it came up from a series of so many heartaches, so many heartbreaks, and for you to really understand where I'm coming from and what really it stands for, I will have to give you really brief testimony, real brief testimony about myself, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate with that. And I will go back, way back. And I'm such a strong believer of testimonies because I do believe that testimonies, a lot of people relate with that. And when you give a testimony, a lot of times what happens is that somebody who is going through the same thing that you are going through is able to be encouraged, is able to be restored, you're able to build them up. And if we look at the many incidents in the Bible, there's a lot of, we see a lot of testimonies by a lot of people. And whenever you want to encourage somebody, you want to give them testimony of somebody like Abraham and Sarah. You want to give them a testimony of someone like David, who God anointed when he was out, taking care of sheep. You want to give the testimony of someone like the Samaritan woman who God forgave. You want to give the testimony of someone like Hannah when she wanted a child and she prayed to God and God gave her exactly what she needed. And so I like to give my testimony. I'm not ashamed of my past. My past was a mess. But I want to thank God that I made a decision to turn it into a testimony that I have purposed in my life to just really encourage people with it. I decided that I will not waste my pain because it was a lot of pain throughout my adult life. It was a lot of pain, and I will start from the beginning. And from the beginning, where I go back to where at 22 years old, after being saved for about 9 years, my life was brought to almost a stop or was completely destroyed by a rapist. I wouldn't know how many people will be watching this and they have been raped in the past, and especially when you're raped when you're a virgin, it destroys everything that you hold dear to yourself. And that's what happened to me. And at the point in time in my own thinking as a young woman, having grown up being a strong Christian believer even through high school, I made very bad choices. And choices have consequences, and the consequences that followed were consequences that were so destructive, extremely destructive. And what happens when you're raped, I do believe your soul dies. And with my soul dying, what happened is that a door for the enemy was opened, a door that allowed so many other destructive habits, and one of them being an alcoholic. And I, in my thinking, or rather in the choices that I made that were not productive, neither were they helpful, I went on to really lead a life that was very, very bad and terrible. A life that was full of pain, and it was full of anger. It was so full of bitterness and shame. I had a lot of guilt, with what had happened. I felt a lot of shame. I lost my self-image. I lacked confidence in myself. I had a lot of confidence growing up. I had a lot of fear because somebody, had taken what I really valued in my life. He had taken it away from me. I experienced a lot of rejection because of the route that I took in my life, and none of all that was profitable. None of all that was beneficial to me in any shape or form. Now let me explain how my life turned around. It got to a point where God wanted me to be restored, and everything has a time and a season, and my season for being destructive was over, and so God got me to a place of restoration, and I ended up in a rehab center, and I restored my life back to God. But what had happened is that there are some things that I did not deal with. I didn't deal with the anger that I was going through. I didn't deal with the bitterness that had been created over time. I was still feeling rejection because people knew me differently, and now I'm in a situation where I have to be in church. There was a lot of rejection in the church. There was a lot of rejection by my own old friends, and within that time, after my restoration, after a period of time, I just wanted to settle down. I just wanted to have a family, and because that was my dream ever since I was young, even though that was destroyed by a rapist. But I still needed that. It was deep down in my spirit, something that is just inside of me. But anyway, I attracted a character that was a reflex, or can I call him? I attracted a character that reflected everything that was going on inside of me, and the understanding of that long after is that spirits have a way of discerning each other, and so the spirits that I was carrying were spirits of deceit and pain and lies, and I had negative spirits that attracted a same character, a same kind of a person into my life. And in a period of 2 years, I went through more pain that I had gone through in a period of 15 years when I had engaged myself in all that kinds of destructive habits. And so this character in 2 years was able to abuse me emotionally, financially, socially. I didn't even know before that there was a social abuse, and physically. I didn't even know that, that I could allow someone to really physically abuse me. And there was verbal abuse. There was every kind of abuse. And eventually I was able to get out of that relationship, but I got out feeling that I wanted out in this world. And that was after a series of 3 miscarriages. For women who have gone through miscarriages, you do know that that is something that will kill you, not only physically, but it will kill you emotionally. And at that point in time, honestly, I just really wanted out, and I just really needed God in every shape and form. But at the same time, I really didn't know what my purpose was. And so when it comes to a time like that in your life, it's time to have a sitting with God. And I did that. And I had a sitting with God where I just needed to know God, feel God, love God again, just kind of deeply know God in a very, very special and personal way, not in any way that I had known him before. And it was about 9 to 10 months into that time of fellowship and prayer and fasting and church, and all I did was just go to work, stay at home and read the word, and I did not involve myself in a lot of social activities. I didn't need that. I had had enough of that for the most part of my life. And so what I needed was a time with God, a time that I just wanted to grow in God and know God in a better way. But at the same time, I really needed to know what's my purpose. Where are we going with this? I mean, what's really my purpose in this life. And through the time that I was going through the healing process, and I discovered, the many things that were going on in my life, I also discovered that I was holding a lot of bitterness and a lot of pain and a lot of anger, and a lot of those other things that I needed to, they were coming to surface. And I had told God, just saturate me with yourself, so that whatever is not of you can be out of my system. And I just needed cleanliness, sanctification, cleansing, everything that was about God. And so in that period of time, one of these days I was at work, and I was a nurse for many years, and I was just doing my nurse's notes, like somewhere at 4 a.m. in the morning, and God downloaded something in my spirit. And let me just say one thing. I have a problem in the church when the women express a lot of things, and that is something that I experienced around that time. I experienced women who are just jealous and angry and bitter and envious and slanderers and gossipers. Those were some of the things that have had me before, and so it gave me zero tolerance for the same. And so because of that, and because I had healed, it's easy to really detect something that you have overcome because you've been through it. And so I was able to detect all these things when I was going into church. I was getting into fellowship and all that. And so when God downloaded something in me, and God was like, why don't you get the women together? And these women, everything that I have allowed you to go through, it's something that I need you to heal women with, okay? And so God downloaded something in my spirit, and I pulled out a nurse's note, and I just started scribbling it down. I wrote everything that was downloading in my spirit. And the Lord just gave me this passion, to do something for the women. And the thing that I was going to do for the women was to bring them together and have them open up. Because, having lived in the United States, there's something about opening up that lets you not hold things inside that eat you up. And a theme of my workshop is usually the issues in our tissues. So the issues that eat you in your tissues are the issues that often manifest these other things that are ugly before God. And so during that time, I remember God just imparting upon my heart, Matthew 13 and verse 22, where he talks about the seed that was sown among thorns. And when that seed was sown among thorns, the thorns suffocated the word. And so the word is not able to grow inside of you. And that settled heavy in my spirit. And so I felt that I needed to go out and help women weed out the thorns that were going on in their spirit, and so that they can be able to receive the word and be able to be honest with God, honest with people, truthful, and even be able to enjoy the fruit of the Spirit. Because with all the things going on inside of you, it's almost impossible to really enjoy the fruit of the Spirit. Anyhow, I wrote it down, and I asked God to help me carry it out. And I remember having my very first workshop in Houston, Texas, where I used to live in Los Angeles, but I invited women from Houston, Texas, because I needed people from out there. That everybody that came to the meeting, the workshop, the very first workshop, I knew only one person who had helped me organize the meeting. And it's amazing that God had shown me how to just write down the things that I had been through, or the things I've mentioned, the poor self-esteem, the shame, the guilt, the anger, the pain, the hurt, everything that I'd gone through. I had put them in cards, in card form. And so what I would have, including rape, including all other things, it was 40 things that I had written down that I know that women go through. And so I had the women pick up. And so at the end of the meeting, when they had to discuss each as per themselves, They were asking, how did you know? And in my spirit, I'm like, God, thank you for confirming that this is exactly what you'd like me to do, because I had asked God to give me that, to give me a confirmation that that's exactly what he wanted me to do. And it was so, I had so much peace in my spirit because of God just downloading that in my spirit, and then allowing me to carry it on, and then allowing me to see the healing that happened in that place. Anyway, I went on from there. I had more workshops, out in the United States, and then I went on to have more workshops. And so far I've had at least 6-7 workshops. And let me just say that across the world, every sitting that I've had with women, amazingly enough, they have all gone through the same set of issues, okay? And when I have thought about that, God has just reminded me, I downloaded this for you. I gave you this vision for women, and it's because every single woman needs to be healed. And God reminded me, I have healed you so you can heal others. Okay, so I have carried on with that, and I've seen the grace of God upon it. I have seen the power of God. I've seen the power of healing. And I go by Isaiah 61 verse 1, and it talks about, I know it's where the words of Jesus, and he said that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed and qualified me. Qualified me means that every pain that I went through was for God's glory. And he has qualified me to preach the gospel of good tidings to the meek, the poor, and the afflicted. He has sent me to bind up and heal the brokenhearted. That really settles so well with me. To proclaim liberty to the physical and spiritual captives, and the opening of the prison and of the eyes to those who are bound. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, the year of his favor, the day of vengeance of our God. To comfort all who mourn. Okay? To grant consolation and joy to those who mourn in Zion, to give them an ornament, a garland or diadem of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, the garment expressive of praise instead of a heavy burden and failing spirit, and that they may be called oaks of righteousness, lofty, strong, and magnificent, distinguished for uprightness, justice, and right standing with God, the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. What a wonderful, wonderful confirmation of everything that I do out there for the women. God qualified me, and he also anointed me to do this, as my purpose. And I asked God, so what's my vision? And for a long time, I really thought that what I needed to do was an alcohol rehab for women. And I thought to myself, how about the women who are going through spousal abuse, women who've been raped, women who've been molested, women who've been hurt badly in the past, and they don't manifest in alcoholism, they probably manifest in other things, like allowing themselves to stay in abusive relationships, okay? So I asked God to give me a vision. Where was I going with the workshops that I was doing? And what I call this a baby that was born of my sister workshop. And this baby is a Sisters Workshop Center for Empowerment. And what God imparted upon my heart and actually gave me so much peace about it is that women can come and find healing. I do a lot of, meditation, a lot of Bible study, a lot of prayer. And so at the center, it is pure. No medications, no nothing, just the natural things that God has given us, and that is water and vitamins if women are going through addiction and are going through some withdrawals. And on top of that, the word of God is what I feed them with. It becomes their daily food every single day, so that they can find their purpose, in God. Because the whole purpose of my vision and my purpose is to bring souls to Christ. And I have seen restoration. I thank God that it has been wonderful. And I thank God that I have used my pain in a positive way. And this is my encouragement to a lot of women. Use your pain in a positive way. And also at the same time, trust God. Trust God. He's a provider. He's everything. He's everything. And the one thing that I honestly insist on, or actually encourage, is that people, women, men, give their lives to God, because there is nothing without forgiveness of sin. And also something that I forgot to mention is that in these meetings I also encourage a lot of forgiveness, because a lot of times when we've been going through hard, say for example, the hard that I went with the rapist, I forgave him. I forgave him because I knew that I needed God to forgive me for everything that I'd done. And it's also, God just talks about forgiveness throughout, and through he talks about forgiveness. So I forgave him, and I found my healing after forgiving him. And I do believe that God has prepared me well enough even to have a future home, a future family, because I know that he has healed me completely. And as I serve him in the purpose that he has put in my spirit, I just want to encourage you that if you need any kind of healing, you can visit us at our center in Ruaka, in Nairobi, Ruaka. And you can call us anytime on 07 11392 You can also reach us on Facebook. I Am My Sister Workshop page. You can reach us on I Am My Sister Workshop 40 at gmail.com. I Am My Sister Workshop 40 at gmail.com. That is the one place that a lot of people have been able to reach out to me, because a lot of women, they are not able to open up in public. They just want private. They just want peace. They just want to talk one-on-one. And it's also okay. I mean, it's okay, unless God has given you the enough strength to be able to open up. Therefore, I encourage you to continue watching these episodes of I Am My Sister Workshop, because I'm going to be discussing topics individually. If it's about rape, I'll talk about rape. If it's about anger, I'll talk about anger. If it's about bitterness, I'll talk about bitterness in the whole episode. So follow us, and you'll be blessed. And I bless you today. I ask the Lord to bless you today, and I love you today. Amen. Bye-bye.